Arganissima, New York. Your exotic skin, hair, and beauty source, and your one-stop shop for all your natural and organic skin and hair care, featuring authentic organic Moroccan oil and prickly pear seed oil and much more. Bringing you only the best, straight from the source and proudly produced in the USA. So what are you waiting for? Shop today at www.arganissima.com. Arganissima, New York. Your beauty.
Folks, welcome back to the iHealth channel with a new episode, a new session with the one and the only Dr. Heim. This is Climb to Your Prime with Dr. Heim, all the way from Australia, and actually a different part of Australia today.
Okay. We're in Hobart. We're a long way south at the moment, but it's a gorgeous place. Is Hobart?
Nice. Well, I'm not familiar with the map where it is located, but you can school us here about it. I mean, it's a big place.
Australia is a huge place, but usually when you see a map of Australia, it's got this little island down the bottom. That's Tasmania, and so that's where I am at the moment. I'm a little part that's away from the rest of it. Yeah.
You're further south. Is there a time difference in addition to what we have already?
No, we're fine at the moment. We're at the same time. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, listen, doctor, I am really excited to have you here. I know we had only 3 weeks or less than 4 weeks since the last show, and we had a blast. And of course, we are ready to take calls. Our number is on the screen, 732-332-8493. And again, this is a live show, so anyone, please feel free to call us. I do have a series of questions that have been come to us. One of them actually was from the previous show. We just didn't get to it. It was actually on the chat. And we also have the ability to see chat here. So you can type in your chat and we can see it, And by the way, this is right now broadcasting on Facebook, Twitch, LinkedIn, and and YouTube. So we have a few places where people can watch and see and or connect with us. So, well, first of all, this is the month of love, apparently, right? It's Valentine's month, and you and I were talking about the cruise, and and that was actually Valentine's week, and it was a fun little time. Yeah, thank you. Well, it's 20 years.
Congratulations, Hurricane. That's fantastic.
Yeah, 20 years in the making. So far so good. Not so many bumps, and then we'll keep up, right?
That's exactly right. You're right over the bumps for the smooth times as well.
Well, I follow your lead. Remember, you gave us a lot of good stuff in the last few months about how to do things, and we had some good shows about relationships. And this one, I have a few questions still remaining on love and relationships. And I think we have ideal scenarios for this particular one. So the first one I have, are we ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
So my relationship are very shallow. I want to settle down, but I can't stand commitments. Even if I like someone and they are a great partner, I somehow leave them after a couple of months. Why is that, Alex?
Okay. Alex, thank you for your question. Right. But yeah, Hurricane, I would have to get to know a lot about Alex to find out what it is that makes him just a bit dubious about committing. But the thing about commitment is the finality of it. Actually sort of thinking, my gosh, I could actually make a mistake here. And the truth is you could. But if it's a mistake or if it's a success, that's actually more in your hands than you realize. And the thing is that once you make the decision to commit, then you go all in. Then you say, okay, now I've got to actually make this work. And Hurricane, you were just talking about your relationship, how there's a few bumps along the way, how you find out things about your partner that you didn't know beforehand. And you know what? Those hurt. Those things can get really frustrating. But here's the thing, if you're together and if you're committed, it becomes that give and take of growing together. And this is the big secret, Hurricane. It's actually growing together that brings us together in love. Love actually grows. And I'm going to sound a bit sappy here, but love is like a garden. You've actually got to plant the seeds, you've got to water them, you've got to put a bit of work into it, and then your garden gets to be beautiful. So one of the reasons that Alex may be afraid to commit is because you say this garden and no other garden. And yeah, you've got to be very careful with that choice. But once you make the choice, then you get to work on your garden. You get to plant what you work in your garden, and it becomes your garden together with your partner. And all of that lies ahead of you, and it's beautiful after you commit. Because if you try to tend other gardens, you will actually find that your garden doesn't do as well. So, Alex, see somebody if you need to, but find out what it is in you that's afraid to commit, and then find some way of actually committing, and then get to work on your garden so it becomes as beautiful as you possibly can. Thanks for the question, Hurricane.
Well, no, thank you. And I just wanted to just ask something in addition to, within the same context. Yeah. Now, I know you said that you would need to know more about Alex, and I think a lot of people probably watching are, they all, I mean, everybody has relationships one way or the other, right?
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things that do determine, how people feel, for each other and so on and so forth. Sometimes it's insecurities. Sometimes it's just that you think you have a match, but it's not a match, but I think the word that he used is, or she used, I don't I can't specifically say here, but shallow, the relationship is very shallow. That's how do we define shallow? I mean, just psychologically speaking, maybe it's a wrong word. I don't know. Is that there's something?
No. Actually, that's good, Hurricane, because now I can get into the science of love and relationships, right? And the best that science has come up with at the moment is that we all follow a certain pathway into relationships. And the pathway is we start off with lust, and then we start off with attraction, and then we start off with attachment. So lust is driven by our sex hormones. You see a gorgeous body, you say, I want that body. And then you see one particular person, you say, I want that particular person. But here's the thing, it's being attracted to one particular person that starts nature on its journey of, okay, is this the match that I want for children? And if you find yourself attracted to one particular person, then other brain chemicals come in. It's dopamine and it's serotonin, and it's the pleasure and the comfort that you start to feel with one person that leads you into a relationship where you think, you know what, I could commit to that person. And when you get that feeling of this is the one, then science tells us that that's actually driven by different brain chemicals. That gets driven by the love through oxytocin and the sense of togetherness with one person, which is more beta endorphins. And yes, it's a lot of serotonin and that great feeling of going, you know what, I'm at home with this person. That's mediated by serotonin. Here's the catch, Hurricane. It's feeling that lust with other people because you're going to feel it, because it's driven by our biology, thinking, you know what, I just want that short-term pleasure with somebody else. And so here's where that word shallow comes in. When you're in a relationship just for the short-term pleasure, just for the physicality of it, just the sex, just the romance, and you don't want to go deeper, that's what we call shallow. That's sort of keeping it on science stage 1, keeping it just lustful. But things actually get deeper. The lust doesn't go away, all right? You just get deeper when you get attached to somebody and when you're attracted to somebody. In fact, we're doing research on people who have been together more than 40 years, and with a twinkle in their eye, they say to us, oh yeah, the spark is still there, all right? It's still there. So your smile tells me, Hurricane, that the spark's still there after your 20 years. My smile tells you that my spark is still there after 30 years. So this idea that we give up the spark is actually not what science is showing. The science is showing that it actually gets deeper if you can get into a deeper relationship.
Thank you, doctor. And oh, by the way, I mean, it's funny you mentioned spark, and you know, one of the ways to really keep that spark going is doing things like, again, I mentioned going on a cruise for the week. Now, I mean, I don't particularly celebrate, you know, the Valentine's concept, but the idea is, I mean, you know, there's this big debate about love shouldn't be just in a day. I mean, love is continuous, right? You know, you know, you don't know someone just one day and just bring them a bouquet of, you know, flowers and then you're good.
Yeah. But the thing is that we biologically respond to novelty, right? So, and people think that novelty has to be, oh, I'm going to have sex with a different person. But novelty is when you are with a person that you are deeply involved with, to go to a place that you've never been to before, to a hotel that you've never been to before, or to buy a bouquet of flowers that you've never bought before. That is novelty that keeps the spark going. So you actually get this two-graded thing. You've got the depth of your understanding, plus you've got this, the lust spark of your bodies reacting. And if you can get those two together, you've got a winning combination for your brain and for your body, I might say.
Yeah, there's good benefits and bonuses, right?
Yeah, that's right. There's benefits and bonuses.
Well, you know, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Doc.
No, I just wanted to say, because the ultimate feeling of love is after you have satisfied the physical side of love, that you feel more in love and you want to stay with that person because you feel closer to them, rather than an empty feeling of, hey, I just don't know this person. Where am I at the moment? I better get out of here, right? So if you've been in a relationship for 20 years, you actually get that feeling of, my gosh, every time we do this, we just get closer. And that is the love ideal. And science tells us that we can actually have that.
Well, doctor, you know, it's funny because on the ship, and again, it's weird, but 90% of the ship was folks that were, you know, 55 maybe to 75 or more. So, and there were plenty of couples. I mean, obviously it's Valentine's week, so everybody is a couple there. And the relationship, they were still having, to your point, the spark. They were hanging out. They were doing all the good stuff. It was just a fun experience to see them.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the reasons that it tends to be more people who are over 55 is, firstly, they can afford to go on cruises, right? Okay. And secondly, they are looking for the novelty of a cruise, for a different country or a different restaurant, just to add that to the spark of romance. But the thing is, and this is a big secret, people in those age brackets are actually having a wonderful, wonderful love life with everything that goes with it. And unfortunately, there's a lot of society that's kind of telling us that you've got to have a lot of people, relationships with different people. And it's actually not what the science is showing. The science is actually showing that you can have that spark with the one person that you're with.
Thank you, Doc. You froze up for a frame a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
No, I know. Listen, I know we're doing a remote, and I know you're not in your usual, you know, office space, so you're making it work. Yeah. But it's all good. It's all good. Well, so doctor, thank you. I mean, like I said, I mean, this whole topic is intriguing, and I think everybody experiences love one way or the other, and relationships is a big deal. And you know, we can make it work. It can be better, you know, and you're giving some good tips for people to actually at least understand how it works, what we should do and what we shouldn't possibly do.
Yeah. The catch in a good relationship, Hurricane, is that it takes effort. There are going to be times of conflict. There's going to be times when you've got to get through a hard time. There's times when you do not understand that person that you're with. And that's just work. But the payoff is you actually grow closer to that person through every argument, through every hardship, through every trying to understand what that person is on about. When you actually get that understanding, the payoff is, oh my gosh, I'm actually closer to this person than I was before. That is love.
That is love. Well, thank you. Well, folks, by the way, again, we are live. You can please dial in 732-332-8493, and you have the one, the only Dr. Heim, dedicated hour for you. So, hey, it's a good time to ask questions. I do have a lot more on the email feed, and I guess people prefer maybe to send an email versus call in, but hey, we'll take that. So next question, Doc. We ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
All right. I have trust issues and feel that everyone is out to take advantage of me. Even when people are nice, I can't seem to shake that feeling. Joanna.
Yeah. Okay. So Joanna, thank you for your question. And this is a big problem in today's society, because one of the things that has happened is we are actually less connected with each other as people. And as you know, Hurricane, this is something that I say often, that if we don't have that connection with people, then we actually start to feel low. And so I'm going to talk about the brain chemical that mediates trust. And the brain chemical that mediates trust is actually oxytocin. And we've been studying oxytocin for over 20 years now, and we find out that birthing suites are full of oxytocin. Mother's love for babies is mediated through oxytocin. A love between two love partners is mediated through oxytocin. But the research also shows that trust, even a business transaction, is mediated by oxytocin. And here's the thing about trust. It takes trust. The opposite of trust is distrust. And when we're not close to people, we start to look at each other, distrust. Okay, so let's go to the coronavirus crisis that we're in at the moment, where we're all wearing masks and we're not able to read the whole of our faces of each other as we used to. That actually breeds distrust, because our brains does not get all the information about the other person that it's used to getting. And the other thing is that the media that we use at the moment means less in the flesh interactions, less live interactions with another person. And so our brains, our anterior cingulate gyrus, that's used to reading all of the clues of how somebody is reacting, their facial expressions, the tone of their voice, does it in conjunction with a piece of the brain called the insular cortex. It is not getting all the information. It's not getting exercise. And so it actually starts to become lazy, which means that if there's less trust, we actually breed less trust against us. And so we're in this vicious circle. And so that people like Joanna get that feeling that everybody is just in it to take advantage of her. And the trouble is with superficial relationships, often she's right. So the thing is, to have trust with somebody, you need to become a trusting person yourself. So in other words, you've got to be able to show your vulnerability, but in today's world, you do need to be able to protect yourself as well. But you protect yourself honestly, basically by saying, I would like to be able to trust people more, but you know what? I've become a bit dubious. I think that there are people that are just out there to hurt other people. And that way you'll start to attract other people that are looking for the same thing. Because Joanna, there are a lot of people who feel like you do, and they want to find somebody who is trusting. That can get hard.
Thank you, Doc. Well, it's funny because trust, we all face trust. We all have to trust somebody, right?
Yes, we do.
And in our relationships in general, I'm talking not just in marital or personal relationship, I'm talking work and family and so on.
Yes.
And I think some of the factors that may impact that is maybe childhood experience, bad experiences in the past,
Yes.
somebody that hurt you somehow, you've trusted them and then they failed and betrayed you and all those things. I mean, I had a show about betrayal and divorce and stuff, and I think we talked about divorce in a couple episodes back, and it is crazy, and it happens that people are kind of just they have a turnoff anymore. They can't even believe in other people.
Yeah.
So, and you lose that, and then you lose really a taste of life.
Yes, you do. Yes, in fact, there was a psychiatrist by the name of Erik Erikson that basically said, look, as we go through life, we've got to go through developmental stages. There are these efforts that we need to put in to get over some of these developmental tasks until we become a fully fledged, psychologically living, breathing, thinking, feeling human being. It's very interesting because the very first one that he said that we have to go through is called basic trust. And imagine that you're a child, you're 6 months, you're totally dependent on a mother or a mother figure to feed you, to be able to clothe you, to take care of all of your basic needs. And if you had a mother that was able to do that, then you will develop basic trust. But what psychiatrists all around the world know is that experiences early in life, they really leave their mark. And so there are a lot of people that didn't get that basic trust early in life, or some people were hurt later in their childhood, and it just put a dent in their trust. And this is why people like myself work with people who have had childhood traumas so that they can have trust in human beings again. Sometimes you've got to start off by trusting one person, then you go to two, and then little by little, you trust more and more people until your faith in humankind can be restored, and you can trust somebody enough to have a personal relationship where you let them really close to you. But it's a big problem. Hurricane and childhood trauma has a lot to answer for, but we all have to learn basic trust.
Well, I mean, we do live in a world that is a little crazy, you know. And I you know, it's funny. I use the word crazy a lot, but you know, that's my generic term for chaos.
That's fine with me.
But really, I mean, the society we live in. I mean, there's so many potentials where you can easily be manipulated, used, abused. I mean, not so much just when you're a child, even at an older age, doesn't matter.
Yes.
Even in business relationship, you get betrayed, and then you just become cautious, you know, on any level, you know.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So what's really difficult in this is society's values, because what the science shows is that we all actually have a choice between being very selfish or selfless, where we're able to live for other people. And through our experiences, shape our choices, but we can actually choose to be a selfless person who will help other people, or to be a selfish person who will just use and abuse other people. That's what the science shows. And the thing is that for us to make that choice, our society has to value it. Now, we actually know that society does value selfless people, because we give medals to people who have been altruistic, to people who have risked their lives to save other people. We don't give medals to people who have scammed other people for their own personal gain. In fact, we've got laws and they could find themselves in jail. So the basic tenets of society is that we have a culture which values selflessness so that we can trust each other and get on with this life and enjoy it. But we're starting to see little cracks in that. And obviously, I would encourage people to make the choice to be a trustworthy person. But I cannot guarantee that you are going to meet trustworthy people in your road throughout life. But if you're one yourself, the chances are that you will start attracting trustworthy people around you.
Well, people, I mean, we have choices, right? I mean, we do have to select our, I guess, crowds and people that we interact with, and we can test them out. If we don't feel that there is enough, you can test people with little things, right? A little secret to give them, even it could be a gimmick, and just to see whether that's going to come back in the wrong way, or maybe you can get diffused somewhere else, and then there you go. If you're talking money, you can try, you know, you lend a little bit of money to someone and see how they behave before you get into a big transaction. I mean, there's ways you can maneuver that. But I mean, again, we have to deal with it, right? We have to make it work, and you got to overcome some of this and still live your life, because otherwise, you can't live in society solo. I mean, it doesn't work. So
That's
you
right.
gotta eventually let go with that. Just like every other fear, right? You have to face it. You have to kind of figure out a way, and you've given some nice ways of understanding how to work around it. But that's it. I mean, everybody can get over this somehow, sometime. But it's
Yes.
not easy, and they'll have to commit to the feeling and be aware that it can happen, but they'll have to be also prepared to deal with it when it happens. If they can avoid it, great. If not, they'll just have to cancel those people from their lives ASAP. That's it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about friendships rather than love relationships. Because we all go a bit gaga when we talk about love relationships, because it evokes deeper feelings. But it's actually the same process in getting to know a friend. The way that you get to know a friend is, firstly, you look for common interests, things that you like together. But then let's say you're with a group of people and you have one person who's becoming more of a friend. So as I said, Hurricane, you trust them with information about you, okay? If they betray that trust by just broadcasting your weaknesses in front of a whole lot of other people, then you are going to not trust them in the future. So that friendship is not going to continue unless you're able to repair it. Hey, I thought I told you something that was in secret. I trusted you and you betrayed me. What was that all about? And I would encourage people to repair friendships when they can. But the feeling is so good when you trust somebody with information and they're trustworthy. And what ideally happens then is they trust you with information about them, okay? And that's when you start making a friend. So it's not just the common interests, which leads people to what we call shallow relationships, which is something that we were talking about earlier on. But you go a bit deeper. You expose your vulnerability. You let people know that you're not perfect, that you're actually weak in some things, and they let you know the same thing. And you go, yeah, me too. So you start building up trust. And by being trustworthy, you actually make friends. So if you're actually able to make friends and repair friendships with more and more people, you will have more and more friends. And that's difficult, but that's basically the process, Hurricane.
Well, listen, doctor. I mean, it's important to highlight that, because people need to realize that they have that ability. They can do it, and there are measures. And I think we've covered enough. And it's funny because I saw a little a meme, or I think it was a meme on Facebook, and it showed like different wine glasses, right? And
Yep.
and it says trust is just like a wine glass or a glass. If it shatters, it can never be the same. And so they glued it back, and the picture shows a very good glass shape. Everything is brand new glass piece, and then it's broken and it's taped together, and then now you can see it. It's really shattered and just glued together. But that's the analogy that they gave. But it's pretty powerful, because when you know that you broke that trust factor, it's never going to be the same. You're always going to be. It's like when you get stung by a bee or by anything. You're going to be careful next time not to get close to the hive, right?
Yes, that's right. That's right. So once bitten, twice shy, right?
That's
so, right. But what you were describing there, Hurricane, in a wine glass being shattered and then put back together again, there's a beautiful Japanese art by the name of kintsugi. And what they do is they get vases and they break them and put them together with gold inlay, and you end up with this new vase that looks like it's been shattered, but it actually becomes more beautiful when it's been put together with gold inlay, because the analogy is, even though sometimes our trust is shattered, if you can learn to trust again and bring yourself back together, the final result is actually sweeter, more beautiful than in the first place. So in other words, even though a lot of us have had traumatic experiences, when you work through those experiences and put yourself together again, often with a therapist, you end up with a life result that is more beautiful because the pain has brought you to deeper realizations. And that's part of, let's say, a relationship that is deeper, or a life that is led deeply rather than a shallow life which looks only on the surface. So it's a beautiful art form. So thank you for that analogy of the broken glasses.
You know, it's literally a coincidence. I just saw it like this morning.
Oh,
And it was
really?
not yeah, and I didn't even plan for the show, but it just, as you were talking about it, just kind of like clicked. And you know, it's amazing how things always work out somehow.
Yeah, they do. That's right. If you trust life, things like that'll happen.
Yeah. Well, listen, I listen. I do put trust personally. I do put trust, and you know, with caution, of course. Yeah, like you always proceed with caution. And I have this formula where I test people in a way where, you know, it's, when I say test them, not in a bad way. You know, you take everybody as the perfect person, and then you see how they behave with you. You know, and then you determine if this is going to be a good relationship, is it going to be somebody that you do not want to have in your life, and so on and so forth. And that's how I do it.
Yeah. The one thing that I'd add to that, Hurricane, is that as human beings, we are all flawed. We all have weaknesses. We all make mistakes. So I've done a lot of research in the area of forgiveness, and the science of forgiveness shows that if you're able to make forgiveness as part of your life, you're then able to reconnect with people. Now, together with their abuse, not going is that we all stay, being able to have responses will mean that we can tolerate each other's weaknesses and each other's pain, and in that beauty.
Doctor, you kind of vanished.
Am I vanished?
No, I can see. I just, you know, you lost the audio for a minute. There was just chopped up. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. That's right. So I'll just repeat the end bit. That if we're able to make allowances for each other's weaknesses and be able to use forgiveness, and the science of forgiveness brings a lot of health benefits, mental health and physical health benefits for people who practice forgiveness. They're able to salvage relationships, salvage friendships, and be able to share each other's pain, each other's struggle. Because we're not talking about people hurt each other, but when people are able to forgive each other and move forward, there's something very, very sweet in that. There's something very, very, you make it.
All right, Doctor, you were doing good again. It's very difficult to catch the last part. So,
all right.
Can you hear me well now? I mean, I think you hear me, but you're just coming choppy.
Okay. Able to, and our fragility and vulnerability as humans, then we're able to see relationships and actually have deeper friendships than before. Okay, so I'm going to give you a real life example. There's a Dutch novelist by the name of Corrie ten Boom, and she actually met the Nazi guard responsible for exterminating her sister. This is a very confronting situation. And in an agonizing few minutes inside her head, she went through a process of forgiveness. So she was able to connect with somebody who used to be a Nazi officer and connect with that person in a very human way, knowing that she was broken, her sister was dead, and that he was a broken person, to connect as human beings trying to get through this really crazy thing that we call life, because we all make mistakes.
Wow.
I find that incredible. Yeah, that sort of stuff is incredible.
It is. I mean, Wow. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Oh, unbelievable. But
Yeah.
well, Doc, first of all, thank you. I mean, like I said, I'm always just absorbing all your wisdom here because it's pretty powerful stuff. And I hope that
Well,
our friends watching and listening and they just getting all that good stuff. Um,
yeah. Yeah. We're into a very difficult part of human nature, right? The violence that happens, the atrocities, and what do you do with all of that energy? I mean, we're just at a time when war is raging in another continent, okay? And so there's going to be a lot of hurt. And the question is, how do we move forward from that? I know we want to try to prevent that, and we haven't done a good job at that. I'm going to take another example that came from a shooting that happened in New Zealand, where a white supremacist started shooting at a mosque and
yes, I
killed
remember.
dozens and dozens of people. One of the people that he killed was a woman in her 60s who was in a wheelchair. And when her husband was interviewed, all that he said was, "I want to let you know that I'm here to forgive the gunman." And the gunman had just taken away what was the most precious person in his life. And he offers forgiveness. Now, forgiveness is not easy. I am sure that that man still feels grief, anger, and loss. But deciding to forgive means that his journey of getting back onto some normality for his life and regaining his faith in human nature is a lot further along than if he had kept resentment, anger, and bitterness. Because as Martin Luther King said, you cannot overcome hate with hate. You can only overcome hate with love. So
Very
difficult, but unfortunately so true.
Very powerful stuff. And you know, it's amazing that you touch on this topic because one of the questions I have is about the current conflict that is, you know, that just started in a couple of days now. So, and
Yeah.
if I might, if you don't mind that, I can ask the question.
Yeah.
So what is the psychological effect and trauma that people may be experiencing currently because of the Russian-Ukraine conflict or any other conflict? And is there anything that they can do to control it, Tatiana?
Okay.
And I know conflicts are happening all over the world, and you know this is
Yes.
just one new one that could escalate too crazy. But we hope that that's not the case. But it is escalating right now,
Yes, it
and the
is.
world is watching, and everybody is
Yes, it is.
concerned. I mean, this is
Yes.
this is not a small war we're talking about. This can go
No.
bad.
Yeah.
And so, sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead, Doc.
No, that's all right, Hurricane. Tatiana, thank you for the question. Okay. And so this is huge because having worked with people who have got post-traumatic stress disorder because they were in hot war situations, some of the things that people experience in war are actually unimaginable. They're unspeakable. They are so horrific. It is just devastating to think that these things are still happening and that we're not moving forward as a species from using war as a way to express ourselves. So the suffering is unimaginable. Yet, this is what's absolutely amazing. The human spirit and the human capacity for resilience is actually great. So even though there are thousands of people who have died just in the last couple of days, that means thousands of tragedies for tens of thousands of people who are losing people who are close to them. The amount of suffering is unimaginable. And yet those people will find some way to go on because the human spirit for survival, and we know this scientifically, is really great. How do they do that? It's really difficult. Everybody is on their own journey. So people are now asking, what can we do about this conflict? How can we stop things like this happening? Well, unfortunately, the same energy that is played out between nations get played out between neighbors, between people in the same family, and even hurricane when we have conflict with our love partner, right? When I argue with my partner, when you argue with your partner, it's a small way of expressing what is difficult about the whole human condition. What's difficult about the whole human condition is that we are all free agents, and some of us try to control other people, and that doesn't work. So what can we do about this present conflict? This is what I would say. Do what you can to get on well with all the people around you. If you have a conflict in your life, do what you can to sit down with that person and try to come to an understanding. Sometimes that's not possible. Sometimes you have to live and let live. Sometimes you have to keep distance, but going into anger states, going into hateful states is never actually helpful. So listening helps. When you're in an argument with somebody that you love, just to say, look, doesn't matter what happens here, I just got to let you know I still love you, and I want to listen to your point of view, and I want to try to understand it, and I want us, as far as possible, to get on well. Because if we could solve the problem of how two people in a love relationship could get on in peace all the time, then we as a species could solve the problem for nations to be able to live in peace and harmony all the time. We are actually trying to do that, and at the moment, today, we're not getting as much success as we'd like.
Thank you, Doctor. And you know, I'm listening to you, and I know the conflict had just begun right now, and I mean it's been escalating, and obviously in the last couple of days it's real. But I think that what makes this particular conflict a little bit more confusing and difficult, I think, worldwide than some other ones. It's not just a humanitarian tragedy, but I think the problem now we're talking about almost going back to Cold War level, of danger, and we're talking about potential nuclear. And so there's people that are really afraid and almost kind of fearful for their lives anywhere in the world, not necessarily just even in the region where the conflict is right now, because the threat is more, serious because of the type of, so people right now, I mean, I've been, watching the news and looking at the, some of the posts out there. I mean, obviously everybody is, praying for Ukraine, and there are some opinions also that may be for the Russian, crowd there, and so there's that conflict as well in terms of opinions. And I've seen both sides of the story. I mean, it's just amazing where there's a conflict. There's always two sides of the story, and everybody's pulling from this side. On one side, they think that they're right. The other side, they think it's the right. But you're right. At the end of the day, what we need as a human nature, as a human race, and species, is that peace. And we have not been able to attain that, no matter what. I mean, you get a couple of years of quiet. I mean, we had the pandemic. It did actually a good job. We stopped conflicting between each other, and we just had to deal with it. And it's so sad that we had to have a virus, stop, things and allow us to actually kind of be human again and help each other. But unfortunately, it's again, we're resuming live as previous. I mean, you talked about the case of the sister, with the Nazis, and with there's other type of conflicts that we've seen. I mean, we had the Syrian conflict, more recently, and we have Chechnya. I mean, there's so many. And also, you talked about the guy that went into the mosque, and I mean, that was also another horrible event that we've seen actually, literally on media live. I mean, it was crazy. And again, all this stuff, you see kids, you see ladies, women, elderly. I mean, property is destroyed, and people are fleeing, like literally fleeing right now from their homes, and with nothing. They just want to be safe. Yes. And the level, that's just the people that are impacted directly, immediately. But then you have everybody right now that's anxious. I mean, we're anxious here. I mean, you guys in Australia, so it's a little different. The conflict is so far out, it's not funny. But for us, I mean, we're, our president, they're having some big, difficult discussions right now. Yes. And so there are people here, even in the New York area, and then I guess the East Coast, that are more concerned about it, because you never know if this thing's.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, Putin has been literally very adamant that if someone touches or whatever gets crazy with them, that side, I mean, he's prepared for everything. When that's been interpreted as, bring it on, we can go even nuclear, and that's actually a scary thought even to just to mention. But I mean, this is like almost going back to the Cuban crisis, Cuban Missile Crisis, and it's as real as it was then. And people are just have to just keep faith, I think, and we hope that eventually the powers that be, all the world, I guess countries can pretty much intervene and hopefully subdue this to a level where it's ending and it doesn't escalate any further. I mean, that's just my wish, and I hope that it doesn't go any further from where we are. And I really pray for anyone. I'm just not for war at all. I'm against it.
Oh, exactly.
The idea of war is just almost like evil,
yes,
as it is, and I don't think there's any benefit from it. People fight for land, people fight for money, for other things, and sometimes you think about everybody eventually, like everybody that exists today on this earth will not be here 100 years from now.
Yes, that's right.
Or 99.9%. I mean, some people do age to exceed the 100, but at the end of the day, why? I mean, that's my question. And so I try to justify it in my mind, like, we shouldn't even have these conflicts because it doesn't make sense. We fight for land. Land comes, goes. I mean, the USSR was big, it's small, it got cut into different pieces. I mean, but people are living their life. Everybody's happy. We should be there. But again, obviously, my opinion doesn't really matter much with the conflict. But the idea is that, I just as a person, and I have a family, I'm concerned about my kids. I know everybody. I mean, and we're remote from the conflict right now. But yet we're so close, because if there is a big deal, it's going to be between the U.S. and Russia at this point, and the NATO allies. And I think Australia is part of,
Yes, we are. We're part of this. We're part of the alliance.
Exactly. And so this is going to be a world conflict, which is not something we want. I mean, it's crazy.
No, it isn't. And Hurricane, you mentioned the word evil, and so I actually want to quote a Russian novelist by the name of Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who saw evil. But his approach was to say that the line between good and evil is drawn in the center of every human being's heart. So in other words, we all are part of this struggle of good against evil. So all of us actually would like peace rather than the reign of evil. So much so that the end of World War II, when we were talking about Nazi exterminating, the World Organization put together the Declaration of Human Rights, basically, to say that this should never happen again. And so it put together a declaration, this was in 1948, about how we as nations need to be able to treat each other as brothers and sisters rather than competitively, because World War II was just totally devastating. And the answer was never again. We can't let that happen again. The trouble with humankind is we have short memories, and it's only been 70 years since World War II, but that's short enough for us to forget that we actually said, never again. We don't want this anymore. But I want to put together one good story that came out of World War II, because Europe, which was torn apart by World War II, decided to put together a contest where they could have friendly competition, and they decided to put together a song contest so that they could work together and work against each other in friendly competition, and this became the Eurovision Song Contest. And we're just coming up to the Eurovision Song Contest now, and the idea is that if we can sing together, and if we can laugh at each other, and if we can make music together, then we don't need to have these worldwide conflicts. Now, I'm not sure if Russia is going to be invited to the European Song Contest, or what the Ukraine are going to do about the European Song Contest, but it would be much better to keep interactions in songs, as glib as it sounds, rather than on the battlefield, because one causes beauty and happiness, the other causes misery, pain, and trauma. So we can only hope that we nations can all get together and act as brothers and sisters to keep more love flowing and keep the evils in our heart at bay. It's difficult though.
It is, Doctor, and it's. I mean, from your mouth to God's ears. I mean, it's a powerful thing to hope that we can get together in a very good environment. To your point, dancing, happy, singing, all that, and I think that was a good. I've enjoyed some of those shows before.
Yeah.
When they come out, and a lot of stars came out of those particular competitions. But sports is another example where the world gets together in World Cups and all these things,
Yeah.
and everybody gets along, and it's very nice. It's just so sad. And you mentioned about World War II. That was devastating. Now, if this actually engages to any level, this is not going to be as just devastating. This is going to be the end. I mean, we can't even think about it. And I just don't want to promote negativity here on the show, but really, when you think about it, this is. We're talking about some powerful weaponry, and
Yes.
this is not going to be just flying over and throwing some bombs and destroying property. This is one drop, and it's nations go, and billions of people's lives will be lost there, and there's no coming back from it. There's no winner in this one.
Yes.
That's the
Yes,
part
that's
sometimes right. I don't get it. The concept that you even think that this is okay is mind blowing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes, it is.
To put it even on the table as a choice, as an option, it's just amazing. But unfortunately, we have to live through it. We have to see how it's going to go, and we just hope. And I wish, that this is going to, dissipate and with less loss of life, and hopefully quick, so it ends. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So I do want to say something as to how people can get through this without losing their way in life. Because it's actually very, very easy to lose your way without this particular center. The question always is, what can I control and what can't I control? And unfortunately, we cannot control other people. That's why we're in this conflict to begin with. But we feel helpless when there's nothing that we can do. But there is something we can do. And quite frankly, if there is a listener out there that works at the White House at the moment, right? If there's something you can do, you have to do that. But all of us need to know what we can do and what we can't do. And we may not be able to stop war overseas, but we can all do our bit to stop war amongst ourselves, amongst our family, amongst our friends, amongst our neighbors. So in other words, do what you know that you can control rather than worry about what you can't control. So in a situation like this, where there are world events that are affecting us and could go very badly, to value the love that you have around you, to value the people that you have around you, to value that the service that you give to society is valuable, and it's part of the effort to make this a better place, even if other people are stuffing it up for us. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make this a better place. So to value the people, and to value your own service, however you contribute, that doesn't have to be large, we're all contributing in a small way, then you are part of the human race, and you are part of shifting that line away from the center towards more good in the heart of the human species. That's not easy to do.
No, it's not. And but by the way, I mean, I appreciate those words, Doctor, because at least when we're at the end of the show right now, but we want to keep people in positive swing of things here, and really good advice that we can diffuse this at a lot of different levels, and hopefully we can start again, as you said, with one group, and just kind of escalates to the rest, and and hopefully it's contagious enough to stop this whole thing, and people can live a better life.
Yeah, and I do want to give just a few practical things of what to do in a crisis like this. Mm-hmm. Hug your children a little bit longer. Look into the eyes of a friend a little bit deeper. Say hello to a stranger on the street a bit more sincerely. Do your work just a little bit harder with a little bit more love and giving so that others benefit. And the total effort of that makes a difference to a worldwide conflict.
Doctor, that is great. And I actually I'm absorbing it, and I know that people are watching or listening, at this point they can take that, to heart, because I think we all can do that. And that's a very good start, and I think that's getting us closer to love and being a happier person. Because again, love is happiness. And that should be a good, I guess, close up for today's show. I would love to have always positive discussions, and unfortunately, this conflict has become a reality. And but it is psychological, at best. Even if the words that are being used right now as a threat are just psychological warfare more than anything else. Even they're not really true, and they're not going to come through with taking it to the next level in terms of the warfare here. But the fact of the matter is still it has an impact. And I think your input today was very valuable for audiences anywhere in the world. If they can hear it, please take the advice from Dr. Heim and use those tactics to at least overcome the current situation and be able to mitigate the feelings that you have today. Any last words, Doctor, for today's show? I know we're closing right now.
Yeah, we are, Hurricane, but I think you've said it all. Look, thank you to everybody for listening. Focus on the love in your heart and how you can share it so that there is a bit more love and a lot less fear in this world. And it's always the right thing to do the right thing. So in other words, whatever life calls upon you to do it with love. And through all of us, that has to make a difference even at the highest echelons of diplomacy in this world.
Doctor, thank you so much with that close. It's always been real. It's always been great. I'm always psyched to have you on this, and I enjoy it. I learned from you, and I know we drive and deliver some real good stuff to our audiences here. So that being said, we will end today's show, and we'll be looking forward to you coming back again at the end of March, I think.
Yes.
The last Friday of every month, so end of March. And again, we go live, and now we have multiple feeds coming up. Please send in your comments and any questions you might have to hurricaneh@ihelpradiousa.com. Or when you come on the show, you can literally call us live on the station, or actually you can even put your chat right now while we are on the discussion. We'll be able to see it. And this chat is driven from different platforms. So whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or LinkedIn, you can still send in, and Twitter, you can send in your stuff in and live, and we can respond to it. So we had plenty of questions today, and I have a few bunch left for the next session, and hopefully we'll get a lot more. So please interact with us. Dr. Heim literally puts a great time to deliver this, and because the mission is really to help people. That being said, Hurricane H here. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll be talking soon.